Hi, my name is Stephen Oz. I'm here this morning. I have a chance to interview Han Murray. Han Murray is an executive director of for South Sudan Community Association here in Omaha. It's a very good organization that one time I served on the board as a program director for 2 years, and I'm very happy. So this is a home for me. I've been here and I know Han Murray for a couple of years. He's been doing an excellent job here in the city of Omaha for the migrants, South Sudanese, Burmese, and any migrants. So now it's going to be a chance, hence the purpose of this interview is a portfolio project for my class. Uh, Down the road, so you will see a copy of this interview, and allow me to ask you some questions, and I will try also, if you don't mind, ask me if the point is not clear, I will be able to explain to you, okay?
Okay.
All right. Question number one. So now there is an area of interest here. I said area of interest that I would like you to interview on are as follows. We have about major 3 point here. We have the first, we will ask the history of your organization, the present of your organization, and the future. That's how organization grow in that way. So now with question number one, the past. I would like to know the historical background of South Sudan Community Association. That is to say, how it was established, its article of incorporation, how big it was compared to now, and how long this organization been in operation. Were there good and tough years that you can refer your employees to motivate them learn more about this organization, the SSCA? I will turn mic to you, please.
Okay. So in the 1990s, Sudanese started to move to Omaha from other cities and states. They were originally resettled in Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and a few Sudanese came to Omaha, and they found a low cost of living, relatively easy entry-level employment, and then community support. They befriended some individuals and church members, and so they decided that Omaha was a good city to live and started the organization in 1997. It was incorporated as a nonprofit. And the original mission was to help the other Sudanese that were moving to Omaha after them start their new lives. And so it began with just a handful of volunteers helping teach English class. The American Red Cross helped provide programs for women's education and health education, and then also helped people get jobs. And then in 1999, they received a grant from Office of Refugee Resettlement to do some assessment to see if Omaha would be a viable direct refugee resettlement city. And so they met some friends, and through the friends, they met the Ethiopian Community Development Council in Arlington, Virginia, which is our national office. And they have a subcontract with Department of State, Bureau of Populations, Refugees, and Migration. And so then they signed the cooperative agreement in 2000 to resettle refugees directly to Omaha. So then the Sudanese started to be resettled through the resettlement program to Omaha in that fiscal year. And the first few years, it was mainly people from Sudan that were resettled. And then after that, people from Somalia, some other African countries, and then people from Burma, and then lately from Bhutan. So when I first started working here, there were still some Sudanese caseworkers, but as the Sudanese caseworkers started getting jobs elsewhere, then the founder, Tor, and former executive director, he would hire more Burmese caseworkers from Burma. And then shortly after that, we started hiring caseworkers from Bhutan too. So all of our caseworkers are former refugees that speak the languages of all the refugees we resettle. Then we also began, besides just the refugee resettlement program, which is a 90-day period, we also began adding on some additional English classes and support programs.
Thanks very much. So, for the record, I'm a part of those group that moved to Oman. It's, when I came to the United States, I was settled in Houston, Texas. So I moved here with some friend calling me. I know it was too cold over here, but Nebraska is now the largest Sudanese community ever than any place in the whole country.
That's what they
So
say.
your organization did a good job on that.
They say, word of mouth.
All right, so that was the first, the historical background of the organization. So now I'll come to ask you about what you're doing now. All right, now that the SSCA has grown this big, what are the methods used on the daily basis to energize its employees and its staff members to render better service to the clients and the public? Would you mind if I ask you to explain the chain of command of SSCA and how you build up your team and how do you evaluate performance? So there'll be two forms of answering this, so I want you to go for this one. Point, if you don't mind, if you can explain a little bit so what you do now.
Okay, so the chain of command is our board of directors. They're in charge of the agency oversight and compliance, and they're my bosses. So then I report to the board of directors and we meet monthly. And then under me, I have a program coordinator that is in charge of all the caseworkers for the refugee resettlement. And then I have an employment specialist who is in charge of the employment caseworkers. And then I have a community outreach coordinator who works on talking to the community and recruiting volunteers to help tutor an English class and get donations. And then we have a job club, so I am in charge of the coordinator of the job club and the employment readiness training. And then our finance director, I'm in charge of her. And then we have interpreters too that I'm in charge of. So the structure is, we just have been going through a strategic planning process to look at our organizational structure, because there's a lot of people, staff members doing day-to-day work, and there's not a lot of levels of management. So we're looking at adding another level of management, because you can only have so many people reporting to you at one time so that things run more smoothly. So we're looking at maybe adding another program manager type person. So we have our staff, multicultural, multilingual. You walk down the hall and you can hear 7 different languages being spoken at any point in time. Everyone gets along really well here, despite the language barriers, and we're more of a big family because we all work here to help other people. That's everybody's main objective. So we all get along very well for the good of the new community members that we're helping. And so we do trainings when needed. Sometimes things change with maybe food stamp applications or processes at the clinic for health assessments. So we coordinate trainings so that all of our staff understand the new processes and things. And when staff have ideas of what we may need to change or what we may need to do, we talk about it and then we decide together as a group. And every year we have an annual performance review, so that we sit down with each staff member and go over their different job duties and how well they feel that they're doing in their jobs. And then we also have a training plan to see if there's any types of trainings that they feel they need to attend to help do their job better. I know some of them, we've had like Excel training because there's a lot of reporting requirements and a lot of case notes and documentation. So our staff need to make sure that they have those skills to be able to fulfill those job duties too.
Well, I have now a good sense of what you do. Now, part 2 of this question is, so I just want to explain, for you why, as to why here in your office and ask your kindness to allow me to interview you. So I'm taking this course, we learn a lot of things in this class, this course, right? And we come to learn that all organizations have their characters. They are like individual. They have 17 of those, all right? And I will show you the list here, okay? So the list that we are, so whether you are a non-profit or profit organization, so you fall in that category. Yeah. So you either being, your uniqueness depends on what you do. Okay, then are you aware of any character such as extroversions, and introversion? You have sensing, you have feeling, you have perceiving, you have thinking, you have judging. Okay, so those are the things that all organizations fall in one of those, and that's where they excel, and that's where they see themselves, and that's where they establish their identity. All right. So given that, would you be able to see yourself into this? So what type or character that your organization operate?
Yes, so I think in the type of work that we do, we have to be extroverted so that we're educating the community about refugees, the new community members coming here, rebuilding their lives here in Omaha, starting families, becoming employed, integrating into the community, buying houses, starting businesses. So we try and be extroverted to promote refugees as newcomers to the larger community. There's a lot of different agencies that touch refugees, and so we try and communicate with those different agencies. I think part of what we do, though, we have to be a little introverted because the resettlement program is a federal program, so there's a lot of compliance. So our caseworkers and our program coordinator has to make sure that timelines are met, and there's case file documentation and backup documentation on each refugee family. So we do have to be introverted sometimes and just focus on the compliance piece. I would say as far as like feelings and perceiving, our caseworkers have a good understanding of the refugee communities, and so if there's things going on in the refugee communities that may be perceived one way, or there's certain things going on, then our caseworkers will let us know. So we do touch on the pulse of the refugee community members themselves. Like an example I can think of is for the Bhutanese. Nationally, there was a higher rate of suicide in the Bhutanese community. So here in Omaha, we helped coordinate and hold a Bhutanese suicide prevention training. So we had a lady from the state come and talk about suicide prevention, and then there was like 23 or 24 different Bhutanese community leaders that came and learned about it. So we're trying to be proactive so that they could help their community members. So I think things like that.
Well, so you just mentioned being proactive. So in this line of this, that we also have the idea of intuition, being intuitive. That means you look ahead, you have your vision. So you explain it very well. So that would be this is like suicide prevention is having a vision to help this community, cope with it, right? Okay, thank you so much for that. And then we move now to the future of your organization. Okay, I know that your organization is here today to be there tomorrow, to establish it today and looking for tomorrow. If that being the case, as I assume it is, right, then can you explain how you are going to frame the argument or the future of your organization and explain such strategic journey? So can you explain that to me? That would be too far. As to, I separate this question into two.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I would say the dream was of the Sudanese that first moved here to establish the organization. Set up the organization and help Sudanese community members come at the time. And the agency progressed. It wasn't just refugee resettlement. We gained some grants to have on-site English classes, and on-site employment classes and employment caseworkers. And then, so it was organized. And then when our founder and former executive director left in 2010, it was kind of on short notice and a surprise to everybody that he decided to go back home to Africa and not continue the agency here. So we had to do a lot of like regrouping, and we had to go through a strategic planning process to see what we needed to do. Obviously we knew we shouldn't just close our doors because there was refugees that were coming and that we needed to assist, but we had to figure out how to kind of overcome that obstacle. And so that was in 2010. And so we followed our strategic planning process with our board and our staff, and that came to an end last year, at the end of 2014. And so then we're organized. And then the next step, making, we have a lot of different initiatives that we're working on now so that, we're more than just the Southern Sudan Community Association. Well, first of all, there is no Southern Sudan anymore. It's the Republic of South Sudan, right?
Yes.
So our name doesn't even make sense. So we're looking at rebranding, remarketing, maybe changing our name to, something that indicates what we do here, because we resettle refugees from all over the world. We help people learn English. We help them get jobs. We teach them how to ride the bus. There's so much that we do here now. We need a name that indicates that to the community, more of what we do. Something like Omaha Empowerment and Integration Center, or something like that. So our board and staff members are going through the strategic planning, and we'll talk about our mission and then our programs to add what other types of sustainable programs we could add to make sure that income is always going to be sustainable into the future. It's very important. We don't want to lose the history that we were founded by Sudanese refugees, because that's what makes us unique and special. We were founded by refugees, and we employ former refugees that can best serve the newcomers to Omaha. So we're trying to figure out how we could go about doing that.
That's good. So good to know that. All right. Okay. So you already answered this, and to the Reverend, what I want to ask you for. Okay. So, what is there any particular mindset when it comes to learning and competing with the other organizations around your areas and beyond? All organizations have also, that is the same, there is a life cycle for all organizations. So you go through all these stages, all right? So there are about 7 of those, and then I'm going to list this to you shortly. So, and those 7 cycles, so we have the dream, all right? And you have the venture, you have get organized, making it, and then so becomes the institutions who are well established, and then, okay, 6, you closing, and number 7, we, organization want to go through, but, that's the nature of everything, all organization die.
Yeah.
All right? Okay, so, with what you explained, from, I will take it now from 1 to 5, I don't want to take it to 6 to 7, all right? 1 to 5, so where do you see yourself into this? Which one you will feel real comfortable to explain? I know you and all these, all these steps, so it was started, and then you took the band here, looking out, now you have to get organized. All right, so would you explain a little bit, so in line with those?
Yeah, I think we're organized in our processes and our staff and our training and our programs. I think now we're in the stage of making it grow, so that we can become an institution. There's a lot of different self-sufficiency programs that refugees need support, so we're looking at what other types of programs we can add. We're also looking at having moved to a larger facility this space we're in is not big enough anymore. We have 4 English classes every morning, and we have an employment class in the afternoon, and cultural readiness and a job club. So we've really outgrown our space.
So how many people come here?
We have 25 employees total, and we have over 200 people per day some days, so it's a lot of people coming here. So we're looking at moving to a larger facility, and not just our programs, but then office shared too. I know the Darfur Association uses an office here, the Southern Bhutanese Family Services, they're looking for an office. The Ethiopian community is starting a new agency, and they're looking for an office to share. So we're looking to be a larger facility, and then we could add a daycare for those refugee parents that are coming to our English classes. Their kids could go to daycare, and we're also talking about potentially like senior programs too, so that people could come full day and have it'd be a large community center type thing, is kind of what we're looking at down the road. And as far as, you know, your question about competing, since we're a nonprofit, I guess there is a certain amount of competing for grant money, because there's not much grant money always available. So we have to kind of look at, you know, what type of funders are interested in our mission and our programs and the people that we support. So I guess there is some competition in grant writing, but we do an awful lot of collaboration. So, you know, we're not in competition with a lot of people because we collaborate on programs. We use our resources together. So like there's Yates Community Center, which is just a few blocks away, and they have English classes and things like that. And so we collaborate with them, and University of Nebraska Medical Center, we've collaborated with them, and there's like an annual health fair for refugees. We collaborate with different social service agencies on different programmings for refugees so that, you know, the money goes farther. We received a partnership grant with the City of Omaha. It was Housing and Urban Development Partnership Funds. So we were able to do some fair housing education and teach refugees about landlord-tenant rights and responsibilities and domestic education and cleaning. So through collaborations, you're able to get a lot more done. It's not just you spending money and time to do a program, but a lot of people working together.
Yeah, in our program, in our class, we have, I read a book in this class, we is part of a class, say that is what we call co-evolution.
Mm-hmm.
That means working together.
Right.
I think that's what you do.
Right. And the Omaha Refugee Task Force, which was founded back by SSCA in 2000, that task force still meets every other month. And so there's different working committees too. There's an employment committee, education committee, housing committee, and health committee. And within the health committee, there's a mental health committee. There's like 3 different subcommittees. So all of these different people on these different committees are working together too. So we can really get a lot more done and provide more programs.
It's amazing. So now you are on that meeting. So how soon do you think that you will come in the station?
Well, I've been here 8 years. We're working on our 2 to 5 year plan. So we're thinking by the end of 5 years, we will have our multicultural facility moved in, set up. It's my hope.
That's very good. So, wait, that will be really good. Okay. So with that, you explained it very well, and I'm very grateful for that. Now, we're coming to the last part of it, and this is really the central of what I'm learning in this class. And I'm going to ask you about it, okay? So within an organization, there is about 3 types of people within an organization. That is what we call a central connector or central connectors, okay? People that connect the organization. If you have to let them go today, then you take a risk of losing a big chunk, you know, of relation with the other people, right? And we have also the brokers. Okay, this is people, you know, in corporate world, there are people that has the specialty of doing ties, and they there's those connections, and they work in team and all of this. And then you have the people that are there, sometimes they feel as if they are left out in an organization. And they are really important too, because they have relation outside. All right? So if you don't mind, if I can ask you to explain to me these three people, how you see them in your organization, and how you see your role and the role of the, unique individual within your organization. Who are the central connectors, and who are the brokers, and who are the flippers, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I would say that the connectors would be myself and our board members, and even our community outreach coordinator. So we're able to, meet people, learn about different grant funding opportunities or businesses or agencies that we can partner with. So we're out there in the community trying to be more connected. And then the brokers would be, I would say, our program coordinators and our caseworkers. They're day-to-day doing their job in the community, but they're also, brokering for the business, sometimes explaining, what the resettlement agency is doing, and things like that. And I would imagine sometimes even some of our volunteers are brokers too. We have volunteers that, help in English class or help tutor citizenship. And we have some people in our job club that are making paper beads and doing some woodworking and things like that. So they're out there in the community talking a little bit too. Peripherals, I'm not sure how many peripherals we have. I think everybody here is very engaged and motivated to work here to help other people. They're all very important people. Maybe there's also some volunteers that would be considered in that category too. I think possibly.
All right. Well, I'm so glad to have this chance to interview you. I thought of it. I called my professor and I asked him, would that be okay with me? He said absolutely. And I'm so glad, because one thing I'm a part of this organization. I know it served me once, and I served it once.
Mm-hmm.
And now it also prepared me now to start my own business. Right? So I will be connecting.
Right.
Right?
Right.
All right. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure for me to have this opportunity to interview you.
Well, you're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.